How can I build real discipline this year? And how do I even talk about discipline in English?
So, hello, and welcome to our English podcast. We're glad you joined us again today.
Hello from me as well. In this podcast, you learn English through real talks, just like people speak every day.
Today, we have a topic that affects many people, not only language learners.
Exactly. Today, we talk about how to build real discipline, and even more important, how to stay disciplined. But Mike, what does discipline actually mean?
Good question. Many people think of discipline as pressure or strict rules. In English, though, discipline does not mean being hard on yourself. Discipline means doing small things again and again, even when you don't feel like it. Not perfect, just honest. You keep going because it helps you in the long run. And you can learn that.
And later in this episode, we invite an expert on discipline. He will explain how to stay disciplined while learning English, even when motivation is low. So stay with us if you want to learn English regularly without forcing yourself every time. Mike, I want to ask you something. What do you think really decides whether someone reaches their goals?
Good question. For me, the answer is discipline. It helps us keep going, even on days when we don't feel like it.
That sounds logical, and to be honest, it fits me right now.
Why?
I notice that I'm lacking some discipline right now. I planned things, but I don't really follow through.
Many people know that feeling. What is especially hard for you at the moment?
For example, exercise. I want to move more. But on training days, I still land on the couch and watch TV.
That sounds very familiar.
I often tell myself, I'll start tomorrow. But that tomorrow never comes.
We all know this, I'll start tomorrow. That's exactly why we're talking about discipline today.
Yes, because without discipline, we delay things and lose sight of our goals.
Then let's start with the first important point.
Yes, let's start with the first tip. Start small.
Right. Small steps are often much more powerful than big plans.
But why is that? Big goals actually sound motivating.
At first, yes. But big goals need a lot of energy and discipline from day one.
Wait a second, Mike. I think many listeners now ask, what exactly do you mean by energy and discipline? What do these words really mean here?
Good question. By energy, I mean your strength and focus, how awake and concentrated you feel. Discipline means doing something anyway, even when that energy is low. For example, learning English even though you are tired. Both things work together, but discipline helps you most on tough days.
That is exactly the problem. My energy is often there only for a moment, and then it disappears again.
Yes. And often that's because people set too much for themselves at the start.
True. Motivation is always strong at the start. That feeling of, now I change everything.
Exactly. Motivation feels good, but it usually doesn't last long.
For me, it is often gone after a few days.
That's normal. Motivation is like a start impulse, but not a motor for everyday life.
And then only the goals remain.
Right? Goals are what you want to reach. For example, being fitter or speaking English better.
But goals alone do not really help me.
Because a goal doesn't tell you what to do today.
Yes. I know what I want, but I don't know how to stick with it.
This is exactly where discipline comes in.
Discipline always sounds a bit harsh to me.
Many people think that. But discipline does not mean forcing yourself.
Then what does it mean?
Discipline means doing something anyway, even when the desire is missing.
Desire is that feeling of, I'm really in the mood right now.
Exactly. And that desire is not there every day.
For me, it's there rather rarely.
So you cannot rely only on desire.
So I need something that works even when I have no desire.
Right. And that is small habits.
Habits are things you do without thinking much about them.
Correct? The smaller they are, the easier they fit into daily life.
That explains why my big goals often fail.
Because they demand too much at once.
For example, 1 hour of exercise each day or doing everything perfectly.
That is a big goal with a lot of pressure.
And that pressure kills my desire completely.
Right? Then everything gets hard.
And in the end, I stop even though I was motivated.
So it's often better to make the goal smaller.
So not less important, just more realistic.
Right. A goal that fits daily life.
For example, only 5 minutes of movement.
Yes. 5 minutes are manageable.
My mind doesn't jump to, I can never do that.
Instead, okay, I can do that.
And when I do it, I feel good.
And that feeling helps you do it again.
Then discipline comes not from force, but from repetition.
Right? First comes the habit, then the progress.
Progress then does not mean big changes at once.
But many small steps that add up.
That sounds much more realistic than my past goals.
And in the long run, it is more stable.
So motivation for the start, goals for direction, and discipline for daily life.
Exactly. That sums it up.
Even if it sounds small, you see over time that it builds up.
Right. 5 minutes daily beat one big effort, and then quitting.
I notice that in language learning too.
Absolutely. Instead of planning to study 1 hour each day, it's often enough to start small.
For example, read a bit or listen for a few minutes.
Or learn a new word and use it once on purpose.
That feels much more relaxed.
And that is why you stick with it.
So it is more important to do something often than for a long stretch.
Yes. Discipline is born not from big bursts, but from repetition.
That is why small habits become normal over time.
Right? They just become part of daily life.
And at that point, discipline no longer feels like force.
Correct. And that brings us to the next important point.
Okay, tell me.
The second tip is, don't look only at your goals. Look at your systems.
What do you mean by systems?
A goal is, for example, I want to get fitter.
I have told myself that many times.
A system is what you do each day for it.
So the small steps in daily life?
Right. For example, a short walk each day or a set time to move.
I often have big goals but no clear plan.
That happens to many. Goals without a system are hard to keep.
I once told myself I want to change a lot quickly.
And how did that go?
At first it went well, but I soon felt disappointed because results were not immediate.
This is where systems help. They keep you going even when you see no results yet.
So it's less about the end result and more about the path.
Exactly. If the system is right, the results come by themselves.
That feels much calmer.
And that helps you stay disciplined without putting yourself under constant pressure.
Okay, I think I now understand systems better. So it's not about being super motivated every day.
Right? Motivation comes and goes. A good system stays.
But to be honest, I still have doubts sometimes.
That's normal. Which doubts do you mean?
For example, if I focus only on small steps, will everything take too long?
Yes, it takes longer, but it also lasts longer.
That is a good point.
Big changes that come fast often disappear fast, too.
True. I have seen that many times.
Small steps may be slower, but they are stable.
And that is probably better when you really want to change something.
Right. Discipline is not a sprint, but rather a calm path.
Before we move on to the next tip, I'm honestly curious what Alex will say about this later.
Yes, me too. He works a lot with language learners and knows these problems with motivation and discipline.
Especially how to stay on track with language learning, even after a few weeks.
Exactly. So be sure to stay until the end.
And while you're listening, we'd like to ask you something.
What is your goal right now?
Do you want to understand English better, speak more fluently, or just study regularly?
Write it in the comments. That helps not only us, but other learners too.
And if you like this episode, please give it a like.
That way we know these talks help you and we can make more.
Now we continue with the next tip.
Right. The next point builds directly on that.
Okay, you said we should make habits attractive.
Yes, that's very important.
I get the idea. But sometimes I think learning does not always have to be fun.
You're right. Not every moment must be fun.
That calms me a bit.
But it also should not feel like a punishment.
Yes, I know that. When something feels too hard, I push it away.
That's why it helps to link learning with something pleasant.
Like music or a TV show.
Right. Or a small break afterwards that you look forward to.
So be kind to yourself instead.
Yes. Kindness is often stronger than pressure.
And what if it is a day when nothing works?
Then accept it and continue the next day.
Without feeling guilty?
Exactly. Discipline does not mean being perfect.
It means starting again.
That's it.
That feels doable.
And that's the point.
Who would have thought discipline sometimes involves snacks and TV?
Right. Discipline doesn't have to be boring.
That makes me feel better.
And that brings us to the next key point. Shape your environment so it helps you.
You mean the place where I study or work?
Yes. Your surroundings can support discipline or make it harder.
That's true. If my desk is messy or snacks are everywhere, I get distracted fast.
Exactly. Then it is easy to give in and do something else.
So my environment is sometimes the problem.
Often, yes. That's why I started to change small things.
Like what?
I lay out my workout clothes in the evening. Then I see them first thing in the morning.
That reminds you to exercise.
Right. And I don't keep snacks right next to my workspace.
That sounds logical.
The goal is to make good choices easy and procrastination hard.
And that works for learning English too?
Absolutely. If your materials are visible, You use them more.
So, like a book on the table or an app on the phone, home screen.
Right. What you see, you use more often.
And what you don't see, you forget fast.
Correct. The people around you also matter.
How so?
When people support you, it is easier to stick with it.
But if friends distract me all the time, it gets harder.
That's true. So have at least one person who knows your goals.
Okay, that makes sense.
And now we come to another key point. Energy and willpower.
Oh, yes. In the evening, my willpower is often gone,
Many feel that. Willpower is like a muscle.
so it gets tired when you use it too much.
Exactly. Do important things when you still have energy.
So, in the morning or earlier in the day.
Yes. If you learn English or exercise, then you need less discipline.
In the evening, that is harder for me.
That is normal.
And what about decisions? I feel I make choices all day.
That is why it is good to automate decisions.
What do you mean by that?
Automating means you do not think each day about the plan. If you must decide daily when to study, that costs energy. This energy is then gone for later tasks. Better set a rule like, I study 5 minutes of English right after breakfast. The choice is done already. You just act. This helps on stressful days. Automated choices make discipline easier because they need less effort.
Yes, that really makes sense to me. I decide each day again if I do something or not. And that is hard. If I set a fixed time instead, it is easier. For example, 5 minutes of English every morning after coffee. Then it is just part of my day. I see this gives me security. Even when I am tired, I know now it is short English time. That feels less tiring and more realistic for my life.
Exactly. Then you don't think, you just do it.
That sounds very helpful.
Another point is support from others.
You mean something like accountability?
Yes. If someone knows your plan, you stick with it more.
I know that. If someone asks, I do it more.
Exactly. That counts for exercise just like for English.
So, for example, a study partner or a group.
Yes. No pressure, just support.
That feels better than doing everything alone.
And that helps you stay disciplined.
Okay, those were many good tips. And now comes the moment we all waited for. Our expert in this field is visiting today. Hi, Alex.
Hello, everyone. Hello again. My name is Alex. For many years, I have worked with people on discipline, habits, and motivation. Very often, I guide people who learn a new language and realize I know what is good for me, but I can't stick with it regularly. I see the same pattern in language learning, in sports, and in daily life.
Why do you think that happens?
That really fits me. For example, with learning English. At the start, I am very motivated. I plan to study every day, maybe 30 or 40 minutes. The first days that works well. But then a busy day comes. I am tired, and I skip once. After that, I think right away, I have ruined it now. Then I often stop completely.
That is a very typical pattern. And it is important. This does not mean you are undisciplined.
But it feels that way to me. I then think, others manage it, only I can't.
Many of my clients say exactly that. The problem is not you, but the way you understand discipline. You linked discipline with perfection.
Yes, exactly. All or nothing.
That rarely works. Discipline does not mean never taking a break or never having a bad day. Discipline means starting again after a break.
So a day without study is no problem.
No. The problem is not that one day, but the reaction to it. Many people think, now it doesn't matter. I see again and again. Successful people are not perfect. They are flexible.
That removes a lot of pressure.
Exactly. Another point is the length. 30 or 40 minutes are too much for many people, especially after a long day.
I feel that. In the evening, I often have no energy left.
That is why I suggest small units for language study. For example, 5 or 10 minutes. That is short enough even on tired days.
And that really is enough?
Yes. You learn a language through regularity. 5 minutes each day are better for the brain than one long session once a week.
That sounds much more realistic for my life.
Exactly. And one more important thing. Praise yourself for small steps. Many people see only what they did not achieve.
I do that often too.
But when you say, I still studied 5 minutes today, you strengthen your discipline. That is not a trick, it is training for your brain.
So you can really learn discipline.
Absolutely. Discipline is not a character trait. It grows from small choices every day. A key word here is momentum, meaning something stays in motion. Regular small steps build that feeling of, I am already in.
So keep moving.
Exactly. I see many of my clients feel overwhelmed very quickly. Overwhelmed means too many tasks are in the head at once. Take language learning as an example. A person tells herself, I must learn new words, understand grammar, listen better, speak more fluently, and make no mistakes, all at the same time. The mind gets full and does not know where to start. Instead of learning, you freeze inside. Many then think they are lazy or not disciplined, but in truth, the brain is simply overloaded. If you make the task smaller, the mind calms down and learning becomes possible. Right. When you are blocked inside, the first step is to remove the pressure. Instead of doing everything at once, focus on one small thing. For example, study only 5 minutes, or read one short text. That helps the brain to move again. Procrastination often happens not because you lack discipline, but because the task feels too big. When you make it smaller, that feeling fades, then you start instead of waiting longer. And this starting is the key step against procrastination.
And then people delay.
Correct. Procrastination is a typical sign of overload. You know what to do, but you don't start.
I know that very well.
That is why regularity is so important. Regular means not much, but often. 5 minutes every day beat 1 hour once a week.
Especially with language learning.
Absolutely. A language lives from repetition. And here comes another key term, reinforcement.
What do you mean by that?
Reinforcement means you link a behavior with something positive. That can be a good feeling, a check mark on a list, or a short thought like, well done. It sounds simple, but it is very powerful. I see this with many of my clients. At first, they focus only on what does not work. But when they start to notice small steps on purpose, much changes. The brain then learns this behavior is worth it, and that makes it more likely you continue. So reinforcement builds discipline without pressure.
And motivation?
Motivation is often the start of everything. It is the feeling of energy, drive, and curiosity. You think, now I start. Now I change something. The problem is that motivation is not reliable. It depends on mood, sleep, stress, and many other things. So it often disappears fast, and that is normal. Many people then think something is wrong with them. But that is not true. Motivation is not a fixed state. It comes and goes. That is why discipline must not depend only on motivation. Systems, habits, and small steps carry you even when motivation is missing.
And discipline starts when motivation is gone.
Exactly. Discipline is what remains when the desire is gone. Responsibility helps with that.
Responsibility to yourself or to others?
Both. Responsibility means you stick to your plan. For example, when you tell someone, I study English every day, that alone already changes your behavior.
Because people take you seriously.
Right. And one last very important point is willpower. Willpower is limited. Therefore, it is so important to automate things.
So to turn them into habits.
Exactly. When something runs automatically, you need almost no willpower. You just do it. That is real, lasting discipline.
That makes the whole thing much more realistic.
Exactly. Discipline is not a talent or a personality trait. It is a system of small choices you make every day.
Thank you very much, Alex. That was very valuable.
Yes, that made many things clearer for me.
My pleasure. And remember, especially when learning English, it is not about perfection, but about sticking with it.
So we are slowly coming to the end.
Remember, small habits, good systems, and a helpful setting make discipline easier.
And be kind to yourself.
Good habits may feel good.
Exactly. Good habits should feel good. Discipline should help you, not stress you.
If I sum up today, I keep 3 points.
Which ones?
First, discipline is not perfection. It's not about doing everything right each day.
It is about returning again and again.
Right. Second, small steps show wisdom, not weakness.
Small steps done often change the most.
And third, discipline is not special or only for a few people.
It is something you can learn.
Step by step in your own time.
That's why we want to leave you with something.
A small challenge for the next week,
Not big, not hard.
but really doable.
Our challenge for you, do one small thing each day.
Whatever it is,
It can be 5 minutes of English,
or a short walk,
or a few minutes of reading.
the key is you choose it and do it.
Even on days when you have little desire.
Not perfect, not long, just honest.
If you miss a day, no problem.
Just continue the next day.
That is real discipline.
If you like, write your small thing in the comments.
That helps you and maybe others too.
And we love reading the comments.
We are also curious. What would you like to see or hear next?
More about motivation, more about learning English in daily life.
Or other topics on your mind?
Please tell us.
And if you enjoyed this episode, give it a like.
That way we know these talks help you.
And we can create more of them.
Remember, discipline does not mean being hard on yourself.
It means taking yourself seriously.
Your time, your energy, and your goals.
Small steps matter.
Every day counts.
Thanks for being here and taking time today.
We'll be happy if you join us again next time.
Until then, stay kind to yourself.
And do your one small thing.
Bye, and see you soon.
See you next time.